Okay, good morning, Andrea and Nathan. Good
Right.
evening, Brazil. And for me, it's 11 p.m. So we have three different time zones for this meeting. We managed to get a full room as well as a couple with us. All right, Andrea has been here. I think it's been 4 months since you joined us. It was so much fun. Time flew by. And of course, she convinced Nathan to be here with us. So, guys, I'm not going to talk much about them because it's two of them to answer. So, time's just going to go by so fast. So, most of you know already how it works. Just please raise your hands and start with the questions. Andrea or Nathan, just give us a little introduction about you, and then we're going to start this.
All right. So I'm Andrea. I'm from Czech. I used to work on a cruise ship where I met Nathan and Simone. Me and Nate, we cruised together about 3 years. Then we came to Australia, I believe, around 2008. Left for a while in Australia and then went for a year to Czech, which extended to 3.5 as I got pregnant and we have a little Czech who was born in Czech, not so little anymore. He is soon to be 9. We came back when he was about 2, and we're living the whole time when we're in Melbourne. When we're in Australia, we live in Melbourne.
Right.
Um,
So
so
Nathan, I actually grew up in Tasmania, which is the little island off the bottom of mainland Australia. Very cold down there. Next stop after Tasmania is Antarctica, pretty much. Um, so yeah, cold place, fun place to grow up, beautiful place, lots of beautiful nature. I think it's officially got the cleanest air in the world. Um, Known for amazing seafood and wines and beer, and yeah, it's an amazing place. But I always knew one day I'd want to live in the big city of Melbourne. There's a lot more going on here. Australian Open tennis. It's got Formula One Grand Prix. It's full of sports and events and stuff. The weather could be better. It's not the warmest. Australia's a huge country, pretty much like Brazil, I reckon. So down low, it's pretty cold. Up north, it's just hot all the time. So yeah, we met working on cruise ships, which was a hell of a lot of fun, traveling all around the world. Did that for about 3.5 years. Been back in Melbourne now for a few years. I work in the liquor industry, which I guess is a fun industry to work in. Um, Lots of events and tasting a lot of product. Um, yep, there's Melbourne. So Melbourne, it's basically on a big bay. So I know Australia's like Brazil, known for their beaches. In Melbourne, because it's sort of a big bay, we don't really get the, I guess, beautiful beaches like you do around the rest of the line of Australia. But still, it's a pretty decent place. Summer, beautiful to go swimming down the beach. Winter, it probably gets a bit too cold to go swimming at the beach. So All right.
Melbourne's the capital of Victoria. So there's 8 states and territories in Australia, and Melbourne's the capital of Victoria.
Okay, let's ask Carlos to zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole island, the whole country, and then you can see also a little bit of Tasmania as well. Can you just try to zoom out? Yes. So there you go. You guys can see how indeed how big it is, the islands. And then Tasmania and Melbourne, it doesn't look to be that far. Is that the reason actually, Nathan, that you like you always dream to live in Australia, maybe, or something, because it's not that far and you can
Yeah,
always visit family or
yeah, pretty much. It's a 1 hour flight, so you can get a ferry. It's an overnight ferry. I think it's probably about 12 hours. So yeah, it's not that far. I think that there is a
12 hours
on a ferry. Yeah,
and 1 hour flying.
yeah.
Wow.
You get a flight to the top of Tasmania, and that's about 30 minutes, I think. So, but all that in the middle there of Australia, it's pretty much empty. There are some cities there. There's one in the middle of Australia, but I think it's something like 80% of the population live within 50 kilometers of a beach or of the coastline. So pretty much
Hmm.
the whole of the center of Australia is pretty much desert and empty.
All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, Vivian has a question. Let's start with the round of questions. Vivian, welcome.
Hello, welcome for everyone. Um, About the culture in Australia, how do you define the music that people appreciate in general, or maybe do you feel that Australia has the influence of the other countries? Because I know a lot of people in Brazil that choose Australia like a place to stay, like a second country to live. And how do you feel about it? Do you believe that there are most people, foreign people in Australia nowadays, and it influences in the culture or not? What's your perception about this? The culture and the population around Australia.
Yeah, well, I guess, Australia was only settled by the British in 1788. So, I guess for white people here, it's relatively new. So I guess our culture and traditions and stuff comes a lot from the British. We seem to be getting more and more Americanized, lots of American movies and TV shows and all the sports people are into these days. So I guess a lot of people are taking a lot more from America, but Australia is very multicultural. A lot of people move here as we've got so much space. So we do take in a lot of immigrants from a lot of countries. A lot of people come here to study. To be honest, we live very close to the city of Melbourne. So to be honest, you can walk in the city of Melbourne, and I guess as a white Anglo-Saxon person, you sometimes feel in the minority. There's a lot of Indians here. There's a lot of Asians here. A lot of South Americans. It's very multicultural. There seems to be festivals on every weekend for some different type of culture, whether it's a Latin festival or a Polish festival or Brazilian festival. There's always something going on. So there is a lot of people here from many different countries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you very
yes.
much for
Oh, yeah.
sharing with us.
Mm.
Okay, just to continue with this, I think Andrea can answer us a little bit about that, because do you feel like a foreigner there at all? Do people think you're Australian, or you have a different accent? How do you feel there actually?
Yeah, the thing from the beginning, I kind of never had that issue feeling like a foreigner because I felt like everybody else is a foreigner from somewhere.
That's good.
Yeah, I do get the question from Australians, where's the accent from? Because they just can't point it out. I would say because of staying here for a while, just before we went to Czech, they would say, think I'm Canadian or whatever. Now I'm getting another English-speaking countries. But yeah, occasionally I do get strong accent, mainly when I come back from Czech. But yeah, no, 100%. It's like there's so many foreigners that you don't feel like a foreigner. It's not like I'm feeling like home. Like I still find Czech being my home. But yeah, I don't feel like being a foreigner in Australia because of all the foreigners around me.
Okay, Danielle.
I work in an aged care, and you hardly ever find Australians working in aged care. So every single co-worker is from somewhere else.
I don't think that everybody understands when you say that. Aged care. Can you please explain us a little bit about that? I don't think they understand actually.
All right. So I work for older people to help them. I do both. I do home care, which means like I come to older people houses if they need help with something. It can be absolutely anything. It's like if you imagining coming to your very old grandma for help. So sometimes it's just going for their shopping. Sometimes it's helping showering. Sometimes it can be cooking for them or feeding them. And the same thing is actually in an aged care, which is like a residential place for old people. I don't know how else to explain it, where live just these old people, and there is like a regular staff 24/7 helping them. So I work partly that as well.
Okay, thank you. Because I believe now it's clear for you, right? However, in Brazil, we still have the culture that the children, they're gonna take care of their parents when they get older, right?
In
Do you
Australia,
guys,
not so much.
yeah, also in Belgium, it's pretty much like that, like Australia. Just let me ask you, or because I think most of you are from the south, if I'm not mistaken. Do we have this kind of stuff in Brazil, South Brazil at all? Residences for elderly, and then they have to pay a
Oh
month.
yeah. This
Yeah,
is increasing. We need a lady to take care of my mother-in-law
yeah.
because she's 92 years old, and she lives alone in a house. She don't want to live with the son or with the anyone. And then we need to have to contract some lady to take care. Okay, this is increasing in Brazil because Brazil is becoming old, like I guess everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, Carlo, but as you're saying, she's still living in her house. The way Andrea was explaining, they have residences, apartment blocks where they live. So the workers,
Oh,
they have to go there to help them out. So, it's different. I don't think in Brazil they have that
oh
many
yeah,
of
yeah,
those
yeah.
residences.
But
Yeah,
in
Does
there.
anybody
Curitiba,
know anybody?
these houses, we have a lot of houses for old people in Curitiba. Is now a business increasing.
All right.
Houses, for instance, I have a house, maybe 4 bedrooms, and I create a place for the old people.
Okay, it's coming. It's becoming global as well, guys. All right, moving on. Daniel, you have a question for them?
Yeah. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Andrea. I heard that Melbourne has 4 seasons in one day, and they just say that the weather could be better. Is that true that this fame of having 4 seasons in one day? How do you handle with this crazy weather?
It's very tricky. You never know how to leave the house. It's you can walk outside, and if you're in the sun and no wind, it can feel like it's 30 degrees. You might turn the corner and you're in the shade and it's windy and it feels like it's 15 degrees. We literally last week we had 3 days in a row of 38 degrees. And then I think the next day it was 21 degrees. So
Oh.
yeah, it's all over the show. At the moment, it looks a bit cloudy out there. I think it's going to be warm and sunny this afternoon, and then it could be hailing tonight and thunderstorms. Yeah, it's hectic. I don't know if you watch, we just had the Australian Open tennis. I don't know if you're watching, but I think the first couple of days it was totally rained out. And then a couple of days after that, it was nearly 40 degrees, and which obviously makes it very tough on the tennis players. But yeah, for somewhere that's got so many sporting events and festivals and stuff, makes it hard for those that have to plan these things to, hopefully the weather's going to cooperate. But yeah, we don't really get snow in Melbourne, but yeah, it can go from freezing cold to boiling hot pretty quickly.
Well, I think it's pretty easy to get a flu or being sick without if you don't pay attention of this change or not know the weather in Melbourne.
100%. And I'd check the weather app probably at least half a dozen times a day. I'd be looking at the weather app. Most of those photos that you're swiping across there, they're all within, probably 5 minutes of where we live. That one's a little
Oh,
bit further.
really?
Yeah, we live straight in the South Bank, which was the beginning of the picture.
Yeah, where you saw the river, we're sort of, a few minutes walk from there. From here.
Wow.
Wow.
Beautiful
Nice.
place.
Because of the changes of the weather, they say that this is like the worst place to be for people with asthma or allergies. Because of the hot and cold, you get a lot of allergens in the air. And yeah, because I work sometimes long hours, I would have pretty much in my car absolutely everything you can think of, from like umbrella, sunglasses, 3 different tops, 2 different shoes, just because I don't know where the day is gonna go.
Wow.
I can imagine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Marcela, you ready for a
Yes.
question?
Hello, guys. From Brazil. Good evening. Andrea, Nathan, nice to meet you. I want to ask about education in Australia. You know, I have 5 years old. Já vou pedir. Sorry, guys, because I have a 5-year-old boy, son, and you know, I keep thinking a lot about education in other countries, the education system, you know, how it works for parents, for the child itself. So I appreciate if you ask or talk about, sorry.
So I guess for kids, so our boy who's 8 years old, he's just started grade 3. So generally you start off in kindergarten. Then we've got basically primary school, which goes for 6 years, grade 1 through to grade 6. Then we go to high school, which is grade 7 to grade 10. And then you can basically go, it's a bit different in different states. In Tasmania, we had college, which was grade 11 and grade 12, and then you go to university after that, if you want to. Or there's other sort of outside courses that you can do and that sort of thing. I think it's probably quite a high level of education in Australia. You know, it's obviously a bit different these days than when I was at school. Though, you know, he's grade 1, everything's on an iPad now. So obviously they're still learning to write. But yeah, they do so much on the iPad, which is just crazy to me. You do. Would you like to come and talk about the education, Jack?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
I
we
heard he's a great student.
Do you enjoy
Jack,
kind of?
I would
And
put, yeah.
So I mean, you know, because we live in the city where he goes to school, it's sort of like a high-rise building, which is so crazy to me. Where I grew up in Tasmania, you know, it's huge grounds with, you know, soccer fields and tennis courts and so much space to play, and now they're sort of in this little, almost like a high-rise building, which is quite crazy to me. But I guess that's living in the city. But sorry, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I'm from Czech, right? When we had our child, that was one of the triggers for me. Like, you know, I'm very happy in Czech, and I was very struggling making the decision come back to Australia. But I did feel like I want Czech to have the education in Australia, because I felt like it's a bit easier and more fun. And I would say probably different way taken than let's say in Czech, or I would say in Europe a lot. And yeah, I think also like English having as a first language, right, is a bit different for life. So yeah, I would definitely say like I do like the way the Australian education is. Like I would say it's just like nicely balanced. Like, you know, comparing, let's say Czech might be a bit too strict and too global, and I think here it's just kind of like the only thing was for me very interesting, uniforms. We don't do uniforms. Australia does uniforms.
but is it for free, guys? How much does it cost per month? A month?
So his fees for the year are about $1,000
A year?
Yes.
So it's not like crazy money, but yeah, you do pay a bit. But it also, like, so far we didn't need to buy anything on the top of it for him, really. Like, you know, that includes already payments for the iPad and all the applications they're using and all the school supplies at this stage they're using. So I would say it's very reasonable.
And it's a pretty new school where he goes, so it's all, you know, very modern, very top notch. Yeah, I feel it's a
And he's
pretty
going
good
to
school.
state one, like not a private one.
Yeah, sorry.
Private one would be expensive.
Yeah, so you can go to private school, which is where all the rich families send their kids, and yeah, some of those, you know, they can be $20,000 a year more, which is crazy. You know?
Amazing, guys. You know, hear you talking about, you know, makes me wondering if I, you know, if I move to Australia, you know, education is not gonna be a problem. But thank you so much. Very good.
Okay, just before we move forward with another question, I have a friend also living in Australia that she told me that her son is taking Japanese as a second language. Is it really something common there to go for second language and
Chinese.
then Japanese or Chinese?
Yeah, Jack has Chinese.
It seems like all the schools where, in different areas, they'll go for a different language. I know when I was in primary school, as a small child, we didn't do languages. But when I was in high school, we basically did a term of French, a term of Japanese, and a term of German. And then sort of the next year, you got to choose which of those you did for the whole year. Now it seems they're starting them in primary school. I know some do Chinese, some do Japanese, some do Spanish. So I think it just depends on the school itself and maybe which area it's in on which language they start them off in. But yeah, it's pretty common to learn a second language here.
Yes, because in Brazil, we all go to English. I mean, we have English at school, right? All of us, we did. But to come out of school and say that we speak English, that's another story. How it is in Australia then?
Jack is
The
doing
children
Chinese.
really, can they really speak something? They can really say like they have a basic level or elementary. How it is there? They are really strict when it comes to languages? Because in Brazil, they're not.
Yeah, no, it'd be very basic. They're not going to come out of it speaking it fluently or anything like that. You'll need to probably go on with it in high school or university. But yeah, it's just giving them something else to learn, I guess, and it's pretty basic. And I think they even struggled to find a Chinese teacher last year. So,
Oh,
very
really?
sporadic, and he
They're
probably
Chinese everywhere. They're everywhere.
no,
Oh,
but he
but
he
they're
can
not.
probably say hello and count a few numbers. That's probably
Jack,
it.
you want to come here and say something Chinese?
Oh, that would be cool.
You
Nuh-uh, come on. You know how to say stuff. Just come and
Yeah, as I said,
All
can't speak.
right. He's camera shy today.
come.
Maybe
He said,
next
I know.
time.
Yeah, come.
Oh,
He's coming. Okay.
ni hao, ni hao.
What did you
Oh,
say?
he knows that. What else do you know, Jack?
You need to say there like a bit louder so they can hear you. Because otherwise they can't hear you. You just open your mouth and talk. Just pretend you're telling it just to me, not to them, okay? And what that means.
What is your name?
Ah.
Wow, that was good. He knows something.
So yeah, I did Japanese. I could used to speak Japanese a bit, not fluently, but yeah, that's all long gone.
What's ni hao ma?
Well, you did try. Okay.
How you doing?
And ni hao ma is how you doing.
Ni hao ma. Okay,
Mm.
cool. He's so cute. All right, guys. Heider has a question. Let's go.
Thank you. Hello, guys. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you, Andrea and Nathan. So, couple, I would like to know about some difference between people who live in Melbourne or, for example, other city, kind of Sydney. I mean about the difference habits, lifestyle, or preference.
I think Melbourne and Sydney's pretty similar. Like Melbourne and Hobart, Melbourne, Sydney's about 1 hour flight difference. But there is a big rivalry. I don't know if sort of your big cities in Brazil have big rivalries
Yes.
between other.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up here, I don't really buy into it. But yeah, the people who grow up in Melbourne hate the people in Sydney, vice versa. There's always a big rivalry between sports, and they literally just announced 2 days ago that we're getting an NFL national, the American football. They're bringing a game out here next year, like a proper game, not just an exhibition game. And it's coming to Melbourne. So, of course, all the people in Sydney are just going crazy. Why are they going to Melbourne? It's a terrible place, blah, blah, blah. So there's always this fighting between Melbourne and Sydney. I think Sydney see themselves as, the sexy city of Australia. You always see the harbour, you see the bridge, you see the Opera House on everything. They obviously had the Olympic Games, so splashed around the world a lot. So I think they see themselves as the sexy city, whereas Melbourne see themselves as a bit more of a cultured city. I feel it's very more European-like down here. as far as the city laneways, the parks and stuff. It just feels a lot more European. Where Sydney, I don't know. I don't like it much. Not that I hate it because of that rivalry, but it's got the harbour, which is lovely, but I feel it's so busy and Sydney people just think they're so much better than everybody else. They do have better weather and better beaches. I give them that, but I think as far as style and everything, it's pretty similar though. But then if you go up further north to like Queensland, that's the state, Brisbane's the capital. I think they get too much sun up there and, it kills a few more brain cells. They're a bit slower and a bit, so you find more of a difference between those people. But yeah, for Melbourne and Sydney, it's pretty similar, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that was funny. Andrea, do you agree?
Yeah, well, I definitely feel like Brisbane is a bit slower, but might be just not. Yeah, Melbourne's got a little of that like European rush, even though I would say Australia in general is very laid back and relaxed comparing to Europe. Like very, very, I can feel the difference when we lived for 3.5 years back to Czech in between. But what I was gonna say, a massive difference is not really between the cities for me, but between like far suburbs or countryside and the cities. Like, in a countryside, you usually find just the Australians or in the suburbs, but in the cities and close to the center, that's where all the foreigners live. Maybe that's why I feel so not a foreigner, because we are right in a city.
Yeah, I guess if you want to experience real Australian and, those,
You need to go suburbs.
yeah, no, out into the country where you see the real, I don't know if you've seen many Australian movies, but those real characters that I guess a lot of people think of when they think Australia. Yeah, get out in the country and you'll experience some different people, that's for sure.
Yeah, because Carlos, he just mentioned Aussie movie, Midnight Oil Group. I don't know what that means, but does it ring a bell for you? Midnight Oil Group? It's a music? Carlos,
no,
please explain
a
us
band.
that.
It's a
Oh, it's a
band.
band.
Yeah, Midnight Oil.
Carlos, tell us about it.
Some people say I might look a little bit like the lead singer, but he's bald. Yeah, no, it's quite a famous, but I didn't realize they were quite famous overseas actually. But when we were living in Czech, we went to a music festival and they were headlining it. And it was actually their comeback concert. They hadn't played together in like 5 or 6 years or something. So, yeah, most Australians know Midnight Oil. They're quite famous. The singers, yeah, he's weird. He's very political and he's a big activist. But the way he dances and moves on stage is a very strange thing to see. So, yeah, they've got some great songs. Check them out.
I will, because I had never heard about it.
It's
Okay,
amazing.
Carlos.
First time I ever
Was
saw
that
them
your
live,
question?
in Czech. So,
Okay. No, I just mentioned the movie Tracks. Last week, I didn't know about this meeting with you guys, but I watched the movie. Tracks is interesting. A young lady, crossed the desert, and the desert, Australia, is very, very hard to cross. And this girl with four camels, one dog, or one bitch. And I recommend you to watch this movie. I like it very much. And it's maybe the Australia in the desert. Okay. And the Midnight Oil, they came to Curitiba, my city, I guess 5 years ago.
yeah.
Okay, one of the member of this rock and roll group is became a politician, as you said, Nathan. They have an action in politics, environment, and so on. And I have some friends in Australia because we hosted in our city, Curitiba, two couples from, I guess, Gold Coast. Gold Coast is like Florida. And I guess one couple from Melbourne. And I love tennis. Last month we had the Melbourne Grand Slam tennis. Was fantastic. And a Brazilian player won one game and was a big success in Brazil. Oh, a Brazilian tennis player won one game in Australian Open. João
Well,
Fonseca.
even if you go out in the
Uh,
second round, it's still a lot of money. But yeah, the tennis, it's probably 15-minute walk from here, straight up the river.
Mm.
Wow.
Probably this year was the first year I haven't been in many, many years. But yeah, it's always an amazing event to go to. Even if you're not interested in tennis, just the whole event that goes with it. It's yeah, amazing. I just looked up that movie you said, Tracks. I've never seen it. I hadn't heard of it. So I'll have to check it out. But yeah, Gold Coast, very similar to, I guess, Florida. It's just, coastline of stunning beaches and lots of surf and I guess lots of nightlife. And I actually lived there for 2 years. And my mother actually lives there at the moment, right on the beach. So that's where we've been for Christmas the last couple of years. Nice apartment, just overlooking the beach, and just spend every day down at the beach playing in the surf, pretty much. So that's a nice
Oh,
place.
fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, okay. And Melbourne, guys, is the number one in quality of life in the world. I don't know who gave this note, but Melbourne the number one in quality of life.
Yeah, there seems to be these surveys and stuff every year. World's most livable city and quality of life and this, that, and the other. And Melbourne has topped the world's most livable city many years. And yeah, some of these other ones, quality of life and stuff, it's always up there around the top.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
okay.
Carlos, if we keep these meetings going in the next 50 years, I can invite them again because they're gonna live so long, living in the with the best quality
Oh,
life.
yes. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's gonna
100,
get
100
great.
years.
Thanks,
All
Carlos.
Thank you,
right.
thank you. Okay.
Vivian, you're back with a question. Or your mic. Yes, yes. Oh, we cannot hear her. Vivian? All right, yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Are you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. When you told about education, I have a son with autism, and what do you feel about inclusive education in Australia? People with special necessities, including autistics, Down, and other conditions. What do you think? How is education? They are accepted or not? It's more visible for you, or one thing that is not so clarified? Because in Brazil we have a lot of difficulties in this issue. And I would know, how do you feel about it in Australia?
I honestly would not know, I guess, how it all works, but I don't know. I feel Australia is sort of very open, very inclusive. There's not really any prejudice or anything in Australia. So, yeah, look, tough for me to answer because I don't really know the answer, but I know Australians' general feeling about being inclusive and everything. So, yeah, I'm sure there's something there, but yeah, I wouldn't know. Sorry.
We have a couple friends with autistic kids. They are not the same age as Jack. That's usually the siblings. So yeah, I've heard bits and pieces, like you have the choices if you want to go to regular school and you get a lot of support there. But there are a lot of specialized schools if the autism is, let's say, in a higher level and you feel like there is really needed like proper special care. But yeah, I would say nowadays it's lately few years. There's a lot of talking and advertising about people understanding it because, like, let's say in the past, a lot of people would think you just have a naughty kid or you don't know how to control your kid or whatever when you're in a public. But yeah, now there is a lot of like spreading knowledge about autism and stuff, and the same thing about ADHD. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of support these days.
Thanks a lot for sharing.
Yes. Ismael, first timer, welcome here.
Yes,
Very
thanks.
curious about your question.
Nice to meet you guys. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Andrea, Nathan. Carlos, talked about some movies, and I've been watching some old movies that tells the story of Australia. And I'm curious to know about the indigenous people, Aboriginal, if you have some contact with them. I know they are 4% of the population of Australia, and I'm curious to know if the indigenous and the Aboriginal, they have the influence in the culture of the Australia, and if, in your perspective, if you if you feel some discrimination between the indigenous people, the ancient people, and you guys nowadays in the Australian society.
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah,
Is
look,
it a bit sensitive for you, Nathan, at all?
personally, not really. It's always yeah, there's always a lot of talk around it, especially, January 26th is what we call Australia Day, which is the day that Australia was settled. Um, and every year that seems to be getting louder and louder about the discontent with it, about how we shouldn't be, they see it as Invasion Day. And whereas I guess for a lot of Australians, I've always seen that as a big celebratory day. So the calls get louder every year to, change the date because it's a bit insensitive to the Aboriginals and the Indigenous communities. So I have no doubt at some stage over the next few years, it's probably going to change. So yeah, look, there's always a lot going on with it. I personally don't know any Aborigines. I know a couple of people that, have a little bit of Aborigine in them, but yeah, I guess in the big cities, you don't see them too much. It's more sort of around the middle of Australia. Um, yeah, it is quite a contentious issue. There's always someone who's not happy with something. Look, I'm not big into politics, and I try and stay away a lot from that. But yeah, look, it's their land. At the end of the day, they were here a long time before us. One of the big things is always was, always is, and always will be. That's sort of their tagline that it's always has been their country and always will be their country. So yeah, look, it does get every year it gets more and more spoken about Aboriginal policies, I guess. Yeah, I've never been too deeply into that though.
I didn't hear anything really for first, let's say 5 years when I was here, but let's say last 3, 4 years, it's a lot of getting them involved, and same thing about the politics. Like I don't think there was much influence let's say 10, 15 years ago, but yes, they do have now a big say. We have one, I think, Aborigines family in our school. Like I know I'm working with one of my ladies just around the corner of them. So I've seen them many times where they live and the kids at school. I don't think there is like anybody's got any issue seeing them, being with them, or not hiring them or anything. But as Nate said, they usually don't live just so close to the city. So also they have probably different possibilities when they're living far away from cities where it's most of the jobs and everything. I know they have a lots of health issues. Like now I study something part of my aged care, and there's a lot about Aborigines and Tornars. And yes, there's a lot of issues about her mental issues from being separated and being pushed to live different way, like changing their culture and stuff like that. But yeah, supposedly all this is trying to come together and getting them a lot of support.
I think there's probably a lot of resentment there from them towards white people. I guess they've always grown up thinking that, white people came here and stole their land. And there was, way back when, there were a lot of issues with, I won't go into it too much, but, stealing their children, taking them away to other places and all this sorts of stuff. So a lot of stuff happened back when the British settled that, obviously wasn't great. And there's probably always been that resentment there from from the Aborigines. But just when you're showing that map there, basically right in the center, there's a town called Alice Springs, which is very famous here. It's where, I don't know if you've seen the great big rock out in the middle, the big red rock, which is called Uluru. Very famous, I guess, tourist attraction in Australia, and it's a community that's where you see a lot of Aborigines, and the main city out there is Alice Springs. And unfortunately, that's become a place where it's almost just don't go, because there is just so much trouble there and violence and stuff from the Aboriginal communities out there. Not saying they're all like that, but yeah, they've turned that town into a not very pleasant place. I think it's now regarded as the most dangerous place in Australia. So, which is a bit sad, but yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, Renato, he's ready with a question.
Okay, Andrea, Nathan, nice having you here. My pleasure. Australia is a kind of country that I love to speak because we have two sessions, one about Tasmania and another one about Australia. So, and I have friends that live in Australia. And besides that, Australia is a kind of country that's very attractive for Brazilians, because many people talk about living in Australia, okay, because they have similar kind of climate, and well, I think that there are a lot of similarities between Brazil and Australia. But the question that I would like to know, by a coincidence, I think that 1 month ago, I led a session in CS, conversational section in English Brazil, and you talk about a rule that the Australian government is trying to set for young people to 16 years old, to not allow them use social media till 16 years old. I don't know if this law was, this project of law succeed or not. Okay, so how is the situation? Because I got curious about that. Okay, how is the situation nowadays?
I think it got passed, but I'm not sure it's been enacted yet. Yeah, I think it's coming. I haven't heard too much about it. I'm fully in support of it. You know, some of the stuff I've seen and read online about, you know, bullying and whatnot of kids on social media. You know, I've seen statistics of youth suicide these days that, you know, comes from bullying on social media, and it's out of control. It really is. So I'm all for it. It's probably something I need to look into and see where that's at, because yeah, I'm not sure if it's gone through yet, but I know there was a huge push from a lot of people about that. So I think it'll be a good thing. And anything you can do to keep them off screens a bit more. This one, he's glued to his iPad and the TV and everything else. So look, if it keeps them off the screens a bit longer and gets them out into the football field or tennis court or whatever it might be, then yeah, it's only a good thing.
Yeah, because this law, I think that 75% of the population, according to the polls, agree that this law should be implemented. Yeah, so I got curious how is it was running and how it is now. But I think that this will be a very tough question to discuss in the Australian government.
Oh yeah, look, I don't know how they'll be able to do it or how they'll be able to police it, but I mean, you know, it's not hard for them to put in a fake birthday. Yeah, I don't know how it will work, but I'm just trying to Google it now. But yeah, I think it's basically going to come down to the social media platforms themselves to introduce this stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's coming yet or not, but I'll find out and I'll let Simone know.
Andrea, can you compliment at all on that?
Yeah, no, the same thing. Like, I just can't imagine how it will actually work. But yeah, I think the main thing is kind of like stop kids under 15 having it as a main thing, being out there and performing themselves on some of the things, like, you know, more than just going and watch it. There's a lot of kids who are actually like the main star of the TikTok or main star of, you know, the YouTube or whatever, which might be dangerous for a lot of things.
And you as parents, what do you think about that? Thinking on your child, your son.
Well, I'm kind of like my own opinion. I'm kind of afraid, but it's just I know not all the kids can make right decisions about what they showing, what they watching, which way their mind is gonna go. So yeah, I can see the danger of having all that happening, but I'm not like the strictest person trying to be on the top of Jack, what he's doing, or like he was saying before that he would like to be a YouTuber, and I would be like, oh, come on, just show me some of your ideas. Let's post it out, you know? So, I'm not that, all right? But yeah, of course, like I'm supportive in general, that's to happen.
I probably read it and listen to a lot more news, and I see all this stuff about online safety and online bullying and the effect that it can have on kids. And I think I sent her a video the other day. I'm sure she probably hasn't watched it, but this video popped up on my Facebook. You know what they can do just with the photos you've posted of your child on Facebook, about how they can make deep fake videos of them, even grown up, how they can take their voice and do things with them and end up scamming you.
Yeah.
Think it's them calling you, and all this sort of stuff they can do these days, just pulling simple photos that you thought were just innocent photos you put on Facebook of your child. So yeah, I'm a bit more into that, where she sort of lets that go and lets him do sort of what he wants. So yeah, need to find a balance there, I think.
Yeah, and, for me, I think I got scared about, because I have five grandchildren, so I think that I become worried about the future of these children using social media and all the internet apps. So well, I think that you have to wait a little bit more to think, to make a decision, to think well about it.
Yep.
Okay,
I
thanks
mean,
a
it's
lot.
hard because if their friends have it, then you know you sort of don't want them to be left out. And the only friend
Yeah.
that doesn't have access to that. But yeah, it's tough. I reckon it's probably the toughest period to have kids in with the technology there is out there these days.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Heider is back.
Okay, so what is the most popular sport in Australia?
My favorite sport, and probably none of you have ever heard of it or seen it. It's Australian rules football. So we have our own football. It's not like soccer. It's not like American football. It's not like rugby. Sorry, I say soccer. I know you call it football, but we call the round ball football soccer here. So yeah, we have our own sport, Australian rules football, and it's the most attended and most watched sport in Australia. We've got the main stadium, which is about 15-minute walk away, that holds 100,000 people. I've been to Maracana Stadium in Rio, and that's probably one of the equally as biggest I've seen, I think. But yeah, I will go to it starts in March. It runs through our winter. So it's coming up soon, the new season, and I'll go pretty much every week to watch my team play. So that was born here in Victoria, in Melbourne. So it's much bigger down here. Once you go up north to Sydney and Brisbane, they're a bit more into rugby, but Australian rules is fast overtaking it even in those states as well. So that's probably the number one sport. And then cricket's very big in summer. So it always used to be football in winter and cricket in summer. I think participation levels for kids these days, I think it's sort of soccer, basketball, Australian rules football. Tennis is obviously very, very popular as well. But yeah, Aussie rules. If you get the chance to see Aussie rules, AFL is the main league, the Australian Football League. If you get the opportunity to see some, have a look. You'll never see anything like it. I think they're probably the fittest, strongest, toughest. Like they get everything. They don't wear pads like American football, and I could talk about it all day. She's laughing up. They don't wear pads
I
like
think
American
it's
football, and they run so much, and they bump each other, and they tackle each other, and they're kicking and handballing and running, and they run many, many kilometers throughout the game. So I don't think there's any sport where you need to be fitter or tougher or stronger. But yeah, very, very.
We are quite lucky that this wasn't the first question, because you wouldn't hear anything
Yes. I was laughing about it. I could read your face, Andrea, just like she goes, "Oh no, now it's not gonna
This guy,
stop."
how passionate is about it. When we actually start being really serious, he told me, there's just one thing I have to tell you, like, for us to work, there's something you need to understand. Carlton, which is his football team, is going to be always first, then you. Yeah. Also for the season of a Carlton, it means, like, let's say if we want to catch up with the friends, usually the girls are doing the organizing, and we put our team matches and compare when we actually can catch up. That's the way how life goes. It goes around a footy on a footy season, If
Wow.
somebody is planning birthday party or wedding or whatever, they first check which teams are playing if all your friends can actually come.
Oh, wow.
Go to YouTube and check out AFL highlights or something, and have a look when you get the
No,
chance.
Aussies are really mad. They have, like, everybody's got their own team they go for, and they're like really mad for it.
Yeah, in Melbourne, you have a team. There's no way you don't have a team. Otherwise, you've got nothing to talk about on Monday morning at work.
I think I was about 4 days in Australia, and he made me a member of his team. And Jack, as soon as he was born, even though he's born in Czech, so as soon as he was born, he was a member of Carlton too.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay, guys.
so
Carlos, if you don't mind not sharing anymore, because we have the last question from Ismael. Okay,
That's
Ismael, go ahead.
I love to watch some American comedians from the United States, and sometimes I've noticed they make jokes about the Australian English accent. And I want to know what do you feel about that? Do you find it funny? Do you find it annoying or disrespectful about these jokes?
Oh no,
Making jokes about American accents.
we've all got we've all got accents. I guess we're used to American accents on movies and stuff, but you go down south in America, the deep south, and some of those accents are pretty crazy. So I mean, you're going to find different accents all over the world, obviously, but I don't feel, as I said before, you go out into the country and you come across the real characters, and the other ones that have that real, Aussie twang. They speak like this, mate. How you going? You all right, mate? And yeah, they're probably more the ones that they're talking about. I don't feel my accent's anything crazy or anything, but yeah, no, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I know some people do tough time, especially the Americans. They're so, not much else exists other than America, that any sort of accent or anything for them is just, oh my God, what are they speaking? The simplest things. I remember the first time I went to America and was staying at it's the name of my football team, Carlton, and we're staying at the Carlton Hotel. We flew to San Francisco, and we said to the taxi driver, Carlton Hotel. And he's like, what? And it's like, the Carlton Hotel. And it took about 10 times till we realized we had to say the Carlton. And when we said the Carlton Hotel, he knew exactly what we're talking about. But Carlton, it was so, yeah, the Americans, they don't really open their minds up much more than themselves. So, yeah, I have
Yes.
you with comedians taking the piss out of our accent.
Totally agree
Thanks.
with you, Nathan, how Americans they treat the rest of the world. Okay, guys, we just ran out of time. However, I would like to know about all these bottles there behind you. Are all there full of alcohol? Do you get
That's
it
the
for
job Nathan
free?
was talking about.
Please, 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 let us see some of them. Oh my God. And then they say you should not bring work
I'm
to
home.
your home. That's what they say. Look what Nathan does. Oh,
Isn't it some of
This
the
one, this is the good stuff. Don Julio 1942. It's the drink of the Super Bowl. Yeah, tequila. So I work for Diageo, which is the biggest spirit company in the world. So we have brands like Smirnoff Vodka, Tanqueray Gin, Don
I
Julio
can see
Tequila,
that. Oh my
Johnny
goodness.
Walker. Yeah, many, many, many brands. Bailey's.
I thought all the bottles were just for the show. They were empty, but I can
No,
see from
no.
here that all of them
Free.
are
I can bring it
full.
home from work. And then I've got mountains
And
of
then just like, you know, the few we can't fit in, it just continues here.
Oh my Lord. Look
They're
at
not
that.
alcoholics. I've been sitting there for a long time. I drink a bit of
Yeah,
tequila
yeah, yeah.
and beer. Apart from that, they just sit there. Yeah, we're not alcoholics.
So guys, if you want to go
like-
to Australia, you know where to go,
Yeah.
right? Oh, look at them.
There you
Wedding
go.
picture.
That was in Czech.
You look exactly the same. Didn't age at all.
Aw, thank you.
So cute.
Okay, guys, it was lots of fun being with you again. I really had a great time. Well, you see, when you're having fun, time just flies by. I would like to thank you once again for taking the time. Saturday
Esse aqui é um
morning.
grupo internacional de.
Say, Jack, it still has classes
Essa
on
que está
Saturday
falando,
morning?
ela mora na Bélgica, e esses dois outros
Oh,
moram
yeah,
na
it's-
Austrália.
Oh, Renato, mic off, please. All right, sorry about that. So,
It's usually every second weekend.
okay, so thank you once again for taking your time to be here with us. I'm pretty sure everybody had a blast with you guys. Wishing you a lovely weekend, and you guys, thank you so much for being here as well.
Yeah, well,
You guys,
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye.
nice weekend.
to see you.
Bye
Thank
bye,
you so
Jack.
much.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
guys, thank you
Bye, guys.
again.
thanks. Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye.